Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another questionnaire. As I've gone back about a month this time, I always tell you guys I always go back at very random points. Sometimes I go back 7 months, one time I went back a year, other times I usually go back 4 to 5 months, so it's completely random where I pick my point. And in today's video, I'm going to be answering a lot of your questions, and I am alone in this one, so without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So, what if Goku went Super Saiyan against Nappa, and if he went Super Saiyan 2 against Frieza, and what if Beerus slapped Bulma? Do you think they passed up an opportunity to have Vegeta go Super Saiyan 3? And I also love your videos. Okay, I don't think Goku could have gone Super Saiyan against Nappa based off of his strength at the time. Please don't use episode of Bardock to justify that, because that was completely out of the ordinary for Dragon Ball Z. That was basically supposed to be a portrayal of how Frieza's ancestors were afraid of the Saiyan threat. That's essentially what it was trying to portray. And so I don't want to say that Goku could even go Super Saiyan that early. I don't think you could turn Super Saiyan that early. If he did, just to be nice and answer your question, if he went Super Saiyan against Nappa, I mean, what does that really do for the series? I mean, he just wipes out Vegeta and Nappa, no problem. He probably will spare Vegeta because he's so much friggin' stronger. I mean, he's way stronger than Nappa too. I think he just beats him up and they leave. If he went Super Saiyan 2 against Frieza, I mean, this isn't even anything. I mean, you destroy him in 2 seconds. I mean, he was considerably stronger than Frieza in just his Super Saiyan form. And if Beerus slapped Bulma, I mean, depending on how much strength he could possibly kill her, I don't think at the time, if you're saying that he did this after the Namek Saga, I don't think Vegeta would care as much. And I don't think Vegeta would probably be able to go Super Saiyan 3. I don't think Super Saiyan 3 really has to do as much with emotion. I think it's just an extra level of training. And thanks for saying you love my videos. Alright. Where did all the humanoids on Earth go in the Buu Saga, i.e. the dog kind or any other personified animals? It's a very good question. Very good question, because I made that video about the anthropomorphism of Dragon Ball. Not sure if you asked your question around that time, but I guess the best way to answer it would be, I think they probably still existed, because when Super Buu used that human extinction attack, he said, I'm gonna wipe out all the humans. Now, I don't know how Majin Buu is able to decipher the difference between a human or a dog-like human, or whatever way you want to put it. Maybe he wiped out the animals too, but I mean, if you really think about it, I'm gonna just have to go on a limb and say maybe some of them died in the catastrophe that Buu unleashed on Earth. But I think for the most part, a lot of them died, but some of them probably still stayed around. And I really have my doubts that Super Buu killed everybody. Maybe a couple, maybe the overwhelming majority, but I've never believed that he killed every single exact person. I just found that attack very difficult. But you know what? Maybe he did. And my guess is that they probably were killed in the process if they were humanoids. Alright. I'm not sure if this has been asked yet, but can you explain why you, Blackenfist, and Thundershot don't consider GT canon? Timothy Gregory. Well, honestly, Blackenfist does a very good job explaining this in his What is Canon video, but I'll just reiterate a little bit. Dragon Ball GT is a show that wasn't directly written by Toriyama. Now, there have been some things that they said he worked on, like drawing Super Saiyan 4, but really, if you really look at GT, it really it doesn't follow the direct manga volumes. For example, I have the manga volumes. There's 26 Dragon Ball Z manga volumes, and there's 16 Dragon Ball manga volumes. And all of those 42 manga volumes take up the entire series from start to finish. And there are some differences between the anime and the manga. But when you look at GT, GT never had a manga written by Toriyama, and that's what I think is the main reason people don't consider GT canon. If you want my honest and truthful opinion, there are a lot of Dragon Ball GT haters out there. I'm not one of them. I do think that GT was a show that was hated more because of how it didn't live up to what Dragon Ball Z and Ball did. But if you really think about it, I don't think GT was an absolute atrocious show. And I know that there's going to be some people who disagree in the comment section. I just think that it wasn't as good as the previous ones, and I think that's why it gets so much hate. And I just think that they could have done so many things to make the series better. And there were some ridiculous plot holes, like Goku being trapped in hell when he could have just used instant transmission to get out the whole time, when in fact he did use instant transmission to get into hell to say goodbye to Piccolo at the end of the series. Enormous plot hole. They made a lot of inconsistencies, like putting movie characters in the background, like when we see the fighters coming to terrorize, you know, Earth, which makes no sense because Cool is stronger than Frieza, so he should actually stay in hell more so than Frieza should. I mean, all of these different things is one of the main reasons people don't consider canon, to be honest, because people hate it, people don't want to accept it as canon. I'm sure you guys will not disagree that if Dragon Ball GT was a great show, more people wouldn't mind accepting it as canon, but because a lot of people think it's shit, that they're not, and that's just the honest opinion. That's just the way it is, guys. And that's how the world works. If something's not good, people are going to try their absolute best not to get into it. It's kind of, I'll say this really quick, I know I'm going off about this question, but it's kind of like in sports, where you have a guy who's a Hall of Famer, but he didn't necessarily have like the greatest relationship with the media, or he may have been in some type of controversy, and they would have a harder time putting him in the Hall of Fame, even though he could be first ballot. And that's one of the ways I look at it from when I look at GT. Which Dragon Ball Z video game has your favorite opening? Wow, this is a question I have never thought about. I mean, off the top of my head, I just recently got Xenoverse. I think Xenoverse's opening is really good. But I think my favorite opening would have to be from Budokai Tenkaichi 2. I love the animation. I love Goku's Kamehameha splitting the moon in half, even though that really actually doesn't make sense. I like how you see Goku basically going through the series where he fights Cell and then Frieza, and then he fights Majin Buu, actually Frieza then Cell. And then like how we see like how he just transitions throughout the whole series, and then you see like all these different things where like they're flying and moving around with the birds. I just really love the theme song too. I think it felt really well in, so I'm gonna have to go with Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, not Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Budokai 2. So yeah, that's my favorite opening, Mr. Proto Man. Rank your favorite Super Saiyan's forms greatest to lead, is Super Saiyan God and 4 included. Well, it's kind of hard to just give you all the list, but if I had to do this, I mean, I'm gonna exclude the Ascended Saiyan forms like Ultra Saiyan with the really muscular bodies. I'm just going to exclude that because I don't really consider that even though it's a real transformation, I don't consider it amongst the pure Super Saiyan transformations. So I'm going to exclude ones like you know, legendary Super Saiyan and full power Super Saiyan, all these weird terms to describe them. If I were to rank the 6, which includes 1 through 4, I'm sorry, the 5, 1 through 4 plus God, I'm going to have to go with, you guys might be surprised, I'm going to go with Super Saiyan 4 first. And the reason why I say this is because of the fact that I feel like Super Saiyan 4 really captures a Saiyan. Like, we see them with the blonde hair and the green eyes, and that looks cool and all, but I feel like that hairy body and the tail and all of that really looks like what you would imagine a real pure Super Saiyan or any type of Ultimate Saiyan form would look like. So that's why I would put Super Saiyan 4 first. I know a lot of you are going to disagree. Super Saiyan 2 would definitely easily be my second favorite, because Super Saiyan 2, I think, was the first transformation where we really see a complete advancement of the Super Saiyan form. And I think they could have left it at Super Saiyan 4 and everybody would have been satisfied, because it's like, that's like the very next level. I'm going to have to go with Super Saiyan 1/3, because I feel like it had its moments on the show, like how it kind of brought everything together. And, you know, I think the electricity for Super Saiyan 2 and 3 make it kind of cooler, but I like how Super Saiyan 1 has that original form. And, you know, it kind of brings a lot of nostalgia when you see everybody and their first Super Saiyan transformation throughout the series. So I put Super Saiyan 1/3. Fourth, I put Super Saiyan 3, not because I don't like it, I just put it fourth because I just like the other ones more. And honestly, I just think it's kind of weird how they just didn't have eyebrows. I mean, come on, you didn't have to do that. And also, I just felt like it was a little overkill. It's like, really, Toriyama, you couldn't think of something better, right? Then, okay, just put another Super Saiyan form. But honestly, it's not bad. I just like the others more. And last, I would put Super Saiyan God. I think Super Saiyan God was a disappointment in terms of its appearance. But you know, I don't dislike Super Saiyan God. I just don't like it as much as the others. It doesn't look intimidating at all. And honestly, I just felt it was a cheap design. You just put Goku, give him red hair, make him look like Kaioken, and that's basically it. So, that's my list, guys. Alright. List your Super Saiyan forms greatest to least. I just said it. So, if you want me to say least to greatest, just take what I just said and flip it backwards. Alright. Okay, this is the third time I sent this. I just fucked up the first 2 times I sent them anonymously. I know you'll see this first part, so don't discount them. Anyways, can you list... Okay, I just said this again. Dragon Ball Nation. As a matter of fact, wow, I didn't even notice this. This is actually Dragon Ball Nation who asked me this question. I do some videos with him nowadays, so... Dragon Ball Nation, I answered your question already. We probably already talked on Skype about this, but yeah, dude. You already got my favorite Super Saiyan transformations. Alright. What if Babidi got caught in Vegeta's final atonement? How would Babidi's death affect the rest of the series? Very good question. I don't think I could do a what if on it because I think it's a little too hypothetical. But if Babidi was killed, I'm assuming you're saying killed in Vegeta's final atonement, you gotta think that when Fat Boo comes back, if the same events play out, because we're assuming Boo would still be around, I think that this is kind of difficult because Boo did kill Babidi. If Majin Buu still does something similar to what he originally did, then if he's in his house and Hercule still shows up, and if he manages to make friends with Hercule, I think that we can basically go on the same exact path. Because Babidi, if you really think about it, with the exception of trying to find Trunks in West City with Goten and Piccolo, and fighting Super Saiyan 3 Goku, if you really think about it, with the exception of Vegeta still being dead, there really wouldn't be any major difference because ultimately, Boo would probably... I mean, if Hercule still finds him, the show would go in the same exact route. And Majin Buu's a very random character, so we don't know what he would do if Babidi was dead. But I presume that it might be easier for Boo to be converted to being a good guy, and if Super Boo eventually comes out, then they would still have a problem. But, I mean, if Goku can talk Boo into being a good guy, which I think he might be capable of doing, and if, you know, Goten and Trunks still learn fusion and Super Boo doesn't come out, I think the world's probably saved. Now, once Evil Boo, if Evil Boo comes out for whatever cause, and, you know, he still causes havoc into Super Boo, then they would probably have to kill him, and the series would go through the exact same path that originally happened. But that's actually a very good question, Mr. Anonymous Person. Alright, let's see. Have you ever read or seen or read One Piece? I've seen a little bit when it was on Toonami, but honestly, with shows that long, it's kind of hard for me to get into them because the thing is that once the show is so far in, it's really hard to follow, especially when you're managing a YouTube channel, when you're playing video games sometimes in your spare time, when you're, you know, basically rewatching a lot of Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho to keep your knowledge higher on that. In addition to doing real things like school and all the other things that I do, it's really hard to do that. I mean, honestly, becoming an adult is one thing in your life that I'll say, it takes away a lot of your free time. So, I mean, if I made my YouTube channel when I was in high school or middle school, not saying my videos would be as good now, because obviously I'm an adult with a much more mature and professional way to make videos, I do think that I would have put in 10 times the amount of hours because of the amount of free time that, you know, adolescents and kids have. So, that's honestly the main reason. Maybe I'll get into it one day, but as of right now, I'm really not the biggest fan of it. But, that's my answer. What if Kami was killed by the previous Guardians of Earth in the Garlic Jr. saga, and how would it affect the series if there was no Piccolo or Dragon Balls from that point on? I mean, if Kami was killed in the Garlic Jr. saga, I mean, you gotta think if he's killed, I mean, what do you mean previous Guardians of the Earth? What are you referring to? Because if he was killed in the Garlic Jr. saga, even though it's filler, you gotta say to yourself, the series would be very, very weird because no Dragon Balls and no Piccolo at that point really affects everything dealing from the Android saga. Piccolo not being there, I mean, that changes a lot, especially against the Android fight against 17. You gotta consider the fact that not having Kami would mean that they need to find a new Guardian. Maybe Goku will go find Dende earlier, because he would still come back with instant transmission. But, I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, at the same time, Piccolo really didn't make that much of a difference in the series during the Android saga, with the exception of fighting 17 and, you know, basically fighting Gero and cutting his arm off. Piccolo didn't do much to alter the series. You know, he wasn't one of those characters that made that drastic game-changing decision like Krillin. Even though Krillin wasn't strong, he made a game-changing decision not to, you know, deactivate 18. Vegeta made a game-changing decision to allow Cell to absorb 18. You know, Goku made a game-changing decision to give up and let Gohan fight Cell. You know, all of these characters made a huge difference in the actual outcome of everything else, and Piccolo, although he may have fought a little bit, he was kind of a background character, so I don't think it would have affected anything, and I think they would have needed a new Guardian at some point. So really, I see no real change. Giselle 781. Alright, Justice League would mop the floor with X-Men, am I right? I'm not your person for comic books. If you wanna ask a big comic book question, ask Duct Tape. I'm a very casual comic book fan. But, I mean, based off of powers, I would say the Justice League would mop the floor with X-Men because, I mean, Superman is like ridiculously uberly powerful compared to most characters. Same for Green Lantern, and same for a lot of the other Flash is ridiculously fast, and from what Duct Tape was saying, he can go access a Speed Force. I mean, Martian Manhunter's ridiculously powerful. So, I'm gonna have to go with Justice League just based off of how ridiculously overpowered their superheroes are. Have you ever read One Piece? I already answered this question. Say Yamcha never lost his fighting spirit and trained hard all the time like Goku and Vegeta, including the Gravity Room. What would Yamcha's power level be at the end of Dragon Ball Z in your opinion? Colton Gonyer. Colton Gonyer, I cannot give you an exact answer to this. Nobody can give you an exact answer to this because this is something that, you know, Dragon Ball Z has. You know, I mean, nobody can really take a good scout as what his power would be. But if I had to make a comparison and say Yamcha trained his absolute hardest at the end of Dragon Ball Z, assuming this is the point where the Oob tournament is taking place, I'd say maybe Yamcha might be stronger than, I don't know, maybe third form Frieza at most. I can't see him ever being stronger than Frieza. Maybe third form Frieza, or maybe like a quarter of Frieza's fourth form power is maybe, I think, Yamcha's max potential, but I don't think Yamcha would ever be able to be anywhere near as strong to be compared to the other Z fighters. So that's my honest opinion. But I think third form Frieza is really his peak. I mean, his minimum, if you know what I mean. Alright, Tien versus Kid Gohan Cell Saga. Who wins? I mean, Kid Gohan Cell Saga? This is kind of a weird question. You're saying Tien versus Kid Gohan from the Cell Saga, so I'm assuming you're talking about Teen Gohan. Or are you saying Tien in the Cell Saga versus Kid Gohan? That's different, so I'll answer both. Tien versus Kid Gohan, it's not even close. Gohan would have wiped the floor with him as Teen Gohan because it wouldn't even be close. I mean, that's not even a fight. I mean, Teen Gohan could beat Cell, for crying out loud. If you're talking about the other way around, Tien from the Cell Saga versus Kid Gohan, I'm gonna have to go with probably Kid Gohan, but you gotta say what Kid Gohan you're talking about, because there have been so many points of the series where you're talking about Gohan. If you're talking about like Gohan when like they were in the Android fight with they were fighting Gero in 17 and 18, I'll give Gohan the edge only because of hidden power, and I think that when his hidden powers outreached, he's way stronger. As a matter of fact, no, I don't even think hidden power takes into it. I think by that point, I think by the Android saga, I think Gohan was stronger than Krillin and Tien easily. So, yeah, I think Gohan wins both times, honestly. It's just my honest opinion. I already answered this. Favorite female character in Dragon Ball Z? Very good question. I was actually having a conversation with Dragon Ball Nation yesterday about it. Man, my favorite female character. Well, if you're saying Dragon Ball Z, if we're going by the whole series, I might say Launch because I really liked her double personality thing. But if we're going from Z, I'm probably going to have to go with Android 18. If you're asking me who I think is the most attractive, I would say Marin, Krillin's ex-girlfriend, even though she was a filler character. But I think that Android 18 is a very, very interesting character. Lazuli is her name. She's a very interesting character because she was basically the only female who could ever beat a Super Saiyan, and she's very, very respectable in power. Definitely the strongest woman on Earth. I kind of like her sassy personality, and even though we didn't get to know about her as much as the others, I really like 18 as a character as a whole. In terms of Bulma, maybe I might put her as a second because I think that she's probably the most useful character in the entire series who's not a fighter. I mean, if you really, really think about it, Bulma has done a ridiculous fucking amount of stuff for the Z fighters in the series. I mean, she's built them spaceships, she's given them time machines, she's given them dragon radars. I mean, she reprogrammed a scouter. I mean, you really gotta think about the ridiculous amount of things that Bulma has done for the entire series. It's insane. It's not even close. Bulma is by far the most valuable person in the entire show who's not a fighter. So, 18 and Bulma are basically my answers. Why is it that in Dragon Ball it was said that Goku needed to be in a very stressful situation to gain his tail back? I believe around the time me, and Grandpa Gohan in a fight. Yet in the Z series, him, Vegeta, Gohan, Goten didn't get their tails in the same life, and that scenario is greater even. Inconsistency. Toriyama has kind of, it was hinted that Toriyama forgot that Goten and Trunks ever had were supposed to have tails, because by that point tails were useless. And plus, it would be kind of weird because the thing about Saiyans is this. Saiyans are humanoids. They look very human in terms of their features, but they're really complete aliens. I mean, Vegeta and Goku are just as much of an alien as Piccolo is. As a matter of fact, Piccolo is more human or Earthling than Goku and Vegeta because he was actually born on Earth, whereas they weren't. But ironically, you would look at them and say that Piccolo is an alien and they're human. But going back to your question, I just think it's an inconsistency. I mean, I don't remember that small detail you said where he said they need to be in a stressful situation to regrow their tails. And you know, as far as Goten and Trunks, it's possible that they had the recessive gene, but, you know, you could say that they were removed at birth, but honestly, there's so many winks that basically suggest the tails didn't matter at that point. So, I just say it's writing, dude. I don't think there's any direct answer to that. The True Fury. What if Dende and Piccolo fused right after Piccolo was freed from being a statue? Would that have changed much, even if Dende isn't a fighter? Well, Kami, to some degree, is a fighter. He's way stronger than the average person, but, I mean, Kami wasn't the fighter that Piccolo was. So I would think maybe they could get some type of boost, but I don't think it'd be significant. I mean, if you look at it, when Piccolo fused with Nail, he got a ridiculous boost, and I'm thinking of doing a Piccolo what if in the future. I'll save that for future references, but Piccolo, I think that if he had fused with Nail, maybe he might get a little stronger, but I don't think it would have been enough to make a difference in the series at all, as compared to fusing with Kami, who's really his second counterpart, and fusing with Nail, who's another fighter who can give him more growth. So that's my honest opinion. Is Mr. Popo as strong as base form Goten, or at least as stronger than Yamcha and maybe even Krillin? If you're talking early Dragon Ball, if you're talking Dragon Ball and maybe early Dragon Ball Z, I would agree that maybe Mr. Popo is strong. Definitely not stronger than Goten. No way. Don't use that filler episode where he managed to block Super Saiyan Goten and Trunks' punches and kicks as any scale to measure Mr. Popo's power. Mr. Popo's not even in Goten's wink in terms of power. It's not even close when you're comparing him to Goten. But for Yamcha and Krillin, I'd say early Dragon Ball Z, late Dragon Ball, he's way stronger than them. I don't want to say way stronger than them, but considerably stronger than them. Past Saiyan arc, Namek arc, I don't even think it's close. I think Mr. Popo would be destroyed by even Yamcha, guys. And Krillin, it's not even close at that point. Thanks for the question, though, the True Fury. And another question by the True Fury. If Roshi was less lecherous and focused more on fighting, how do you think that would have affected the series in terms of his own strength, since more time would have been dedicated to fighting, and also in terms of entertainment value? Master Roshi, in my honest opinion, I think he's out of his physical prime. I mean, you gotta think that Master Roshi was the strongest guy on Earth, maybe, I'm not counting Popo and Kami and all that stuff. But, like, Master Roshi was, like, the strongest guy on Earth, practically, for a couple of years as an old man. But if you really look at it, Master Roshi's old. I mean, and he is a pure human. Now, yes, granted, he's a human that's been hinted to have drank it from the fountain of youth. That's why he's so old. He's so old to the point where when Krillin was ridiculously young in Dragon Ball and he was old, they ended up seeing each other late in GT when Krillin's old and Roshi's still old. So, Roshi's obviously an old guy, but in my honest opinion, I say that Roshi is the type of guy who declined because of age at some point. I don't think that Roshi is the type of character who could be as strong as what he was when he was younger. You know, and I think that because of that, even if he trained, maybe he gets a very minimal amount stronger, but I don't think you could really get that much stronger at that age, you know? So that's just my honest opinion. But these are some good questions to True Fury. Alright, let's see. What if in the hyperbolic time chamber, could be used an unlimited amount of time? Kashami, well, I'm sure a lot of characters would be way stronger. I did hear some theory, I think it was Vegito who told me this, or maybe it was, I heard somebody saying that their theory where the hyperbolic time chamber is organized in such a way where if you go in and you've gotten enough from it, it doesn't really give you much afterwards because you've kind of already adjusted to it. It's kind of like this, guys. Like, they talk about the hyperbolic time chamber in a way where let's say I am in the gravity chamber and I do 100 times gravity. And I've mastered how to basically fight at 100 times gravity. If I go back into the 100 times gravity chamber, I'm not going to get as much as if I were to go to the next level. And I think that's kind of how it is. And I think that's why Vegeta, Trunks, and Piccolo, although they did improve when they went into the hyperbolic time chamber, Piccolo going in for the first time and Vegeta and Trunks going in for a second time, that's why I don't think they got as much out of it. Because their bodies were kind of, like, trained for it already. Like, looking at Piccolo, like, he was a character who gained a lot, and Goten and Trunks did because they were kids, even though it was only 2 weeks. But, like, a character like Vegeta or Trunks, although it's a very stressful environment, I don't think it can give you as much return the stronger you get. So that's honestly my opinion on how it would have been. I don't think it would give you much over time. Who's better, Derrick Rose or Steph Curry? Steph Curry is way better than Derrick Rose right now. If you're talking if Derrick Rose can be equal to or better than his 2011 MVP season, I would have to say that Derrick Rose is on par with Steph Curry. I do think that Steph Curry is a better player. Derrick Rose is a better defensive player, and he's way more athletic than Curry is. But Curry is way better at shooting than Derrick Rose could ever dream of being. His handle is much better, and Steph Curry has the type of game that can last for another 10 to 15 years. And the reason I say this is because he can shoot so well. If you look at a player like Ray Allen, for example, Ray Allen is still being, well, he actually decided not to come back into the NBA for this season, but Ray Allen was being recruited so much at his age because despite how old Ray Allen is at 39, he has a lot of value because he can shoot so well. And if you look at other guys like Dirk Nowitzki, you know, guys along that nature, guys who can shoot really well at an extended age can really last a long time in the NBA. And if you look at guys, even though he's my favorite player of all time, Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, their games are completely predicated on athleticism and attacking the basket. So when a guy like Dwayne Wade gets older, he's going to lose his prime a lot earlier than a guy like Kobe, who was a much better jump shooter. And if you compare a guy like Derrick Rose or Russell Westbrook, without their athleticism, they're not even half the players that they are, because unfortunately Wade, Westbrook, and Derrick Rose, all three of those guys who are all kind of similar in size in terms of height, they're all very athletic, small guards, and without their athleticism, their supreme athleticism, their game isn't good enough all around to really balance it out. And to be honest, all three of those guys don't have a very good shooting percentage from beyond 15 feet from the rim. I mean, Wade's a decent mid-range jump shooter. He's very overrated at it. He needs to get into his momentum to do it. So that's why I say Derrick Rose I don't think he's ever going to be the same player. I hate to say it. I liked watching them even though he played for the enemy team, but Derrick Rose is the type of guy where I say to myself, it's kind of sad that he's so young and yet he's already basically on the decline. But that happens to a lot of great players. You know, Tracy McGrady left his prime early too, and you know, it happens for some players. So Steph Curry, I think, is a better player right now, and I think he's going to be a much better player down the road because his game is more his game style is more friendly with how the NBA ages players. So that does it for it. I say Curry over Rose. And oh, and by the way, I'll say something really quick about Steph Curry too, guys, that you can tell I'm hungry to talk about sports. Steph Curry is actually an MVP candidate right now. So even though Derrick Rose has one MVP, I mean, who's to say Steph Curry won't get it right this year? I think he has a very good chance. It's really between him and James Harden, so that's what I honestly say. And the final question of the day is, do you think the Spurs have a chance of winning this year? Kashami, I really love the NBA questions. I love talking about sports. And I talk a lot about the NFL too, by the way. If the Spurs have a good chance of winning, ironically, you're saying this, Kashami, the day right after I saw probably the best regular season game of the year. I saw the Spurs and the Cavaliers basically go at it in overtime, and basically Kawhi Leonard missed 2 clutch free throws, which gave Kyrie Irving the chance to hit a very clutch three-point shot, and a game that he scored 57 points. I think that the Spurs, honestly, we've been saying they've been old for years. I think they're definitely going to be a team to be reckoned with, but at the same time, I'm not going to say age because they've defied age for so long, but the Spurs are the type of team that they don't need all of their big three to play well. They have a very good supporting cast, and their ball movement is fantastic, so even if their players aren't really having a very good day, they can create very good shots for one another, and they do have very, very good rotations on defense. I would say that the Spurs are a matchup problem for the Golden State Warriors, because if you look at how the Spurs, despite, you know, their 3 best players, not counting Kawhi Leonard, being over, 30, their rotations, I think, will give Golden State a very bad matchup problem if they fall to the 8th seed. I don't think they're going to fall to the 8th seed because I think OKC is just a bit too far behind along with the Pelicans. So I think that the Spurs would probably end up playing a team like Portland or Memphis, and I think that the Spurs can probably beat them, especially because Portland lost Wesley Matthews. Memphis, I think, is a much better team with the addition of Jeff Green. I think Jeff Green is an offensive threat that Kawhi Leonard would have to pay a lot of attention to, instead of basically putting Kawhi on probably Mike Conley, because they would probably do that in some cases, despite the fact that Mike Conley is a much smaller guy, because Tony Parker would not be able to defend Mike Conley. I would say that the Spurs will definitely upset at least one team in the first round. I think they have a solid shot of making the Western Conference Finals, even though the West is so deep, but I can't see the Spurs winning a title this year. I think that the West is just getting too good. My pick to come out of the entire NBA this season is the Golden State Warriors, and as much as I fucking hate to say this, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I hate to say it. I hate the fact that, I mean, obviously I'm not happy that LeBron left my team to go to the Cavs, but at the same time, what the fuck, man? I mean, the Cavs The Cavs got LeBron. And you know what? We went to 4 straight finals. I gotta be happy as a Heat fan. So I gotta say, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers are probably gonna end up in the finals against the Warriors. And I think that because of the Warriors' phenomenal shooting and Kyrie Irving's inability to ever defend Steph Curry, and J.R. Smith not being able to defend Klay Thompson, I think that the Golden State Warriors would have an advantage, considering they have a fantastic bench. So I'm going to say Golden State Warriors win the title this year against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's been my video for today, guys. I know I spent a lot of time just talking about the final 2 sports questions, but I'm starving for sports topics, guys. I want to do more sports. I know they don't get that many views, but if any of you guys are sports fans, just share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to talk about it. NBA and NFL only, though. I can't really talk about any other sports. So I hope you enjoyed my questionnaire for today, guys, and most importantly, over everything else, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.